The air smells like disinfectant, and something underneath it you cannot name. You are somewhere cold. Harbin, Manchuria. Winter, 1940. Minus 30 degrees Celsius outside. A dead calm. You are standing inside a facility the size of a small city. 150 buildings. 6 square kilometers of brick and wire fence. The locals think it is a lumber mill. The people inside are called logs. Maruta, the Japanese word for timber. Not patients, not prisoners. Logs. You pass a man strapped to a metal table. He is conscious. His abdomen is open. A surgeon examines his organs without removing them. There is no anesthesia. There never is. Anesthesia, the doctor explains, would contaminate the results. The doctor's name is Shirō Ishii, Lieutenant General, physician, the most dangerous scientist in Imperial Japan. He will live to 77, die peacefully of throat cancer, never face a single charge, because the United States of America will make him a deal. The doctor with a blank check. In 1925, a 23-year-old medical student reads a news report. The Geneva Protocol has just banned biological and chemical weapons in warfare. Where most people read this as progress, Shirō Ishii reads it as evidence. Evidence that these weapons are so devastating, the world needed to ban them. He wants to build them. Ishii is brilliant, relentlessly ambitious, and entirely without moral limitation. He graduates top of his class from Kyoto Imperial University School of Medicine. He travels Europe for 2 years studying military medicine and epidemiology. He returns with a thesis and a plan. Japan needs a biological weapons program. The Western powers already have one. He is correct. Britain tested anthrax bombs on Grunard Island off Scotland. That island will remain quarantined and contaminated for 48 years. By 1932, Ishii has the attention of the Imperial Army's highest command. By 1936, he has a facility. By 1939, he has a budget. 10 million yen per year, roughly 60 million US dollars today. No oversight, no accountability, no limit. The facility rises in Pingfang, a suburb of Harbin in occupied Manchuria. Far enough from Tokyo that no one needs to know what happens there. Close enough to the Soviet border to test what happens when you release a plague. The compound grows to 6 square kilometers. Its own railway spur, its own airstrip, its own power station, its own prison, its own crematorium. At its peak, 3,000 staff work inside. Surgeons, biologists, weapons engineers, administrators who never ask questions. The best educated military unit in Imperial Japan. They call the facility the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department. They purify nothing. But outside the compound, a very different kind of supply chain has already begun. The lumber mill. Biological warfare has a fundamental engineering problem. Disease is unpredictable. It kills your enemies, yes, but it comes back. It mutates. It crosses lines no one drew. Ishii's goal is precision, plague as reliable as a bullet. To achieve that, you need data from human subjects. Animal trials tell you one thing. Human bodies tell you another. Between 1936 and 1945, Unit 731 processes between 3,000 and 10,000 people. The exact number is unknown. Most records were destroyed before the Soviets arrived. Subjects arrive by train, in sealed rail cars, from across occupied China. Some are soldiers captured in combat. Some are civilians from occupied villages. Some are criminals transferred from Chinese prisons. Some were simply nearby. A small number are Russian. A small number are Korean. A smaller number still are American and British prisoners of war. When they arrive, they are given a number. Their name is erased. They are housed in Block 7 and Block 8, the special prison. Cells 1 meter 80 centimeters by 2 meters. No window. Timed meals. Forced exercise daily to maintain cardiovascular fitness. You keep the logs dry before you burn them. Researchers test plague, cholera, typhoid, anthrax, dysentery, and hemorrhagic fever. They infect subjects and measure time to incapacitation, time to death. They vary dosage, delivery method, age, and nutritional state of the subject. What is the minimum lethal dose of Yersinia pestis injected subcutaneously? What is the difference between an aerosolized anthrax exposure and an ingested one? What happens if you infect a child? They get answers. All of them. Between experiments, subjects are fed, cleaned, kept warm. A dead log cannot be used a second time. When a subject dies, the body moves to the pathology lab. Organs are extracted, labeled, preserved in glass jars, and cataloged. The remainder is cremated in the on-site incinerator. No body, no name, no trace. Approximately 30. The experiments at Unit 731 fall into two categories: weapons development, which has a logic however dark, and pure scientific curiosity, which has none. The frostbite experiments begin in Harbin's winters, where the cold costs nothing. Subjects are taken outside in sub-zero temperatures. Their arms and legs are submerged in frozen water for hours. Researchers stand beside them with notepads and stopwatches. They test how long it takes flesh to freeze solid. The method: strike the frozen limb with a wooden stick. When the sound shifts from dull to hollow, the limb is frozen through. They then test rewarming techniques: hot water, slow ambient heat, body contact. The objective is to develop cold weather survival protocols for Japanese soldiers. Decades later, elements of this research will quietly enter cold weather medicine. No citation, no acknowledgement, no name attached to the finding. Pressure chamber experiments place subjects in sealed steel cylinders. The internal pressure is rapidly increased, then rapidly dropped. Researchers document what happens to the human body in hyperbaric stress: hemorrhage beneath the skin, eyes forced from sockets, intestines prolapsing under the sudden change in pressure. The data is recorded with clinical precision. Vivisection is performed without anesthesia on a regular rotation. Surgeons open the body while the subject is conscious and restrained. The objective is to observe disease progression in a living, functioning body. A plague-infected liver looks different when the heart is still beating. Surgeon Shiro Kasahara later estimates he personally performed vivisections on approximately 30 people. He estimates this the way you might estimate how many meetings you attended. Approximately. There are centrifuge experiments. How fast can a body spin before vessels rupture? There are transfusion experiments replacing blood with horse blood or saline solution. There are weapons tests with live subjects positioned at measured distances from grenades. The shrapnel pattern is documented. The survivability threshold is documented. Everything is documented. 3,000 pages of data. 50 volumes of indexed research. The most comprehensive human experimentation dataset ever compiled in history. Some findings are published in Japanese academic journals, carefully disguised. The authors receive promotions. One wins a professorship at a national university. At no point does anyone refuse an assignment. At no point does anyone leave. Because by 1940, the weapons are ready, and they need to be tested at scale. A successful calibration. By 1940, Ishii has identified the optimal strain of plague bacterium. He has identified the optimal carrier, the Oriental rat flea, twice as effective at transmission as the European variant. He has designed a ceramic bomb, built not to explode, but to shatter. A conventional explosion kills the fleas on detonation. A shatter releases them. The bomb is designated the Uji Type 50. Each unit carries approximately 30,000 infected fleas. The production capacity at Pingfang can generate 4.5 kilograms of plague bacteria monthly, enough to kill a city. The first major field test takes place over Ningbo, China, in October 1940. A Japanese aircraft flies over the city and releases ceramic containers at low altitude. Residents on the streets below see what looks like wheat grain falling from the sky. Within 2 weeks, plague cases emerge throughout the city. 99 people die before the outbreak is contained. 99 dead. Ishii considers this a successful calibration test. In Chengde, Hunan Province, in November 1941, the calibration is adjusted upward. The outbreak that follows kills over 7,000 people. Over the course of the war, Unit 731 conducts operations against at least 11 Chinese cities. Historians estimate total civilian deaths from Unit 731's field operations at between 200,000 and 580,000. The range is that wide because the records were destroyed, and because the people who died were Chinese civilians in a war the world had already decided not to watch closely. In August 1945, Soviet forces crossed the Manchurian border. Ishii gives the order within hours: destroy everything. Buildings are dynamited. Files are burned in metal drums. The remaining subjects, still alive in their numbered cells, are killed. Some are injected with potassium cyanide. Some are shot. Some are infected with a final experimental dose, and the cell is sealed. The crematorium runs for 2 full days without stopping. When Soviet forces reach Pingfang, they find rubble and winter silence. Ishii is already on a plane to Tokyo. He carries nothing incriminating. He leaves nothing behind, or so he thinks. The deal. In September 1945, an American epidemiologist named Murray Sanders lands in Tokyo. His assignment? Investigate rumors of Japanese biological warfare research. Within weeks, he has a name. Within months, he has a file. The Americans discover that Unit 731's data is unlike anything they possess. 12 years of controlled human experimentation, thousands of individual case studies, dosage curves for plague, cholera, anthrax, and typhoid, tested directly on human subjects. Data that cannot be ethically replicated. Not now, not ever. Data that the Soviet Union is simultaneously hunting for. General Douglas MacArthur, Supreme Commander of Allied Forces in the Pacific, makes a calculation. He requests authorization from Washington to offer full immunity to Ishii and his staff. Full immunity, in exchange for the research data. Washington approves. The deal is struck in secret. No trial, no charges, no public record. The International Military Tribunal for the Far East, the Tokyo War Crimes Trial, opens in 1946. It tries and hangs 7 Japanese leaders for crimes against humanity. Unit 731 is not mentioned, not once. In 18 months of proceedings, MacArthur's office produces an internal memo. The value of the biological warfare data is of supreme importance to U.S. national security. Prosecution would risk this data reaching the Soviets. Therefore, prosecution will not occur. Ishii retires to a quiet suburb of Tokyo. He opens a small medical clinic, treats ordinary patients, charges ordinary fees. His colleagues scatter across Japan's medical and scientific establishment. Masaji Kitano, Unit 731's second commanding officer, becomes head of Japan's Green Cross Corporation, Japan's largest supplier of blood products, supplying hospitals and clinics across the country. The Unit 731 research files are transferred to Fort Detrick, Maryland, the United States Army's biological weapons research facility. How the data was used, and in what specific programs, remains classified. The Soviet Union captures its own Unit 731 personnel in Manchuria. They conduct secret trials in Khabarovsk in 1949. 12 men convicted, maximum 10-year sentences. Most are released in a prisoner exchange by 1956. Shirō Ishii dies on October 9, 1959. Throat cancer. His body turning on him from the inside. He is buried with full religious ceremony. His gravestone still stands. People still visit. The Afterglow. There is a question ethicists have argued over for 8 decades. Should the Unit 731 data be used in medicine? The question is largely theoretical now. The data was used. It is used. Cold weather medicine draws on the frostbite findings. No citation, no source listed. Pressure physiology incorporates the decompression research. No attribution, no name. The data passed through American military research programs and entered the literature stripped clean. Stripped of context. Stripped of the thousands of names it cost. In 1947, the Nuremberg doctors' trial produces the Nuremberg Code, the first international standard for medical research ethics. Informed consent, no coercion. The subject's well-being above the research objective. It is written primarily in response to Nazi medical experiments. Unit 731 is not mentioned in its drafting, because Unit 731 is a secret. The deal is still in place. In 2002, a Japanese court formally rules that Japan conducted biological warfare in China. The ruling awards zero compensation. The Japanese government immediately appeals. Japan did not formally acknowledge Unit 731's existence until the 1990s. A half-century of official silence. Today, a museum stands on the ruins of the Pingfang compound in Harbin. 300,000 people visit every year. Most are Chinese. Very few are Japanese. Almost none are American. The dissection tables are still there. The crematorium chimney. The cell blocks. The ceramic bomb casings. Empty now, pale and smooth as eggs. What the museum cannot show you is the data. The data is in Fort Detrick, Maryland, still classified. 80 years later. The logs kept the fire burning for a very long time.